that we get to see someone kind of sort of new. I mean, InZaNe is a name I'm familiar with, SKillous less so, but I'm sure to many of you, you don't know either one of these people. Maybe to some of you, you're literally so in the scene, you know both of them. Well, congratulations. But the point is, either one of these guys doesn't have a big established pro name, is going to be in WCS round of 32 for WCS Winter of Europe, which I know if you guys watch the American side of things, if you're like, well, that happens often enough in the round of 32. Let's see what happens in the round of 16. For Europe, getting in the round of 32 is actually quite impressive. You're beating a lot of other very good people. Where, well, I just BM'd to NA accidentally, but you guys know what I'm getting at. You know, don't be like that. Where we have the established, let's say 24 players of America, and then there's always those 8 that are like question marks. It's usually not the case in Europe, okay? That's that, guys. All right, it's a brand new series. Whoever wins this is qualified. Whoever doesn't is also out of luck for WCS Winter Europe. In the bottom right is the Green Terran going for a proxy, but you wouldn't know if you were scouting. It's InZaNe. Tricky barracks building. In the top left is the red Protoss. It is SKillous on Team Blazer. So, you're 2 Raxon. This barracks is not even going to be looked for because this looks like maybe like you're a little like, huh, that feels off. It really isn't that weirdly timed for a barracks. Just a barracks, just one barracks. There really would be like a 6th sense or a spidey sense of a Protoss who scouts this and goes, ah, there's another one somewhere else. There are things that start to become apparent though, but not things that SKillous is going to see. So again, maybe they're like, okay, that was like 5 seconds ago. What's going on here? You would see the second supply depot come down already. If he had gotten back to see that, that would have been an indication. And perhaps if he had gotten in the main entirely for a long time and seen what seems to be a lack of SCVs producing, maybe that would have given him a heads up too. But this is sneaky stuff. This is stuff that you're going to be like really worried about if you've faced this build before, which is possible. Now, right now, I feel like SKillous is just saying, well, I didn't get confirmation on the natural and I shouldn't trust Terrans, and he's right about that. So I'm going to put down a shield battery, but still making probes, still only going on 1 gateway. No urgency to get to a robo. He sees a Marine come across the map, then he sees another one, and then another one, and then, well, look at that. There's 2 Marauders and a bunker in your face. And they grab the first stalker. Very nice start there for InZaNe. Very powerful cheese here if the bunker gets up and running, but the Marauder slow is done. And it can tear out the stalkers very, very quickly. The probes are a bit of a different matter. It's the funny thing that happens with big, important units, right? Like Cyclones or like Marauders, is that probe rounds actually aren't that bad against them. And now we have 2 shield batteries up and running. The probes are even better in this situation. But kiting's also really good. Thankfully, he does take out that SCV in due time. But with 2 shield batteries, this is not looking maybe so hot anymore. Third stalker is on the way. Stargate's on the way too. The grab on the first stalker was absolutely great, but maybe the bunker was a little bit too far forward. If it was back here, that might have been more room to cover the SCV, for instance. But yeah, it's actually just looks like SKillous had the skills going pay the bills. And also his read to get a shield battery right off the bat was very, very important. Whatever tipped him off or made him paranoid, which is probably just his probe dying to a Marine first instead of a Reaper, not seeing the command center, so on and so forth. They're small things, but they did tip him off. Probably saved his natural base, if not his life entirely. Thank you, Hello Zergling, for the 200 bits. 50 bits. Guys, I do believe today we hit another emote slot as well, so really cool stuff. Thanks, everyone. Getting what he possibly can with the last few Marauders with shield batteries, pretty good. And that one stalker, so close to death, ends up living. Barrick's gonna get a scout on a very real Phoenix. Then he's even gonna scout that it's a second Phoenix, not an Oracle on the way. The defense portion of whether it's an Oracle or a Phoenix is not really different from each other, but when it comes to attacking, it can be different. If there was a follow-up attack, but not that's gonna happen here. Robo's on the way now for Skillous, as InZaNe went into everything you'd expect from a Terran player, but just a little out of order, right? He did go back up to 2 barracks and then his factory and starport with a command center, but everything's out of order, everything's all wonky, and he doesn't quite have a lot of production ready to go yet. It's a decent number of Marines and a Cyclone, which is by far the most important thing here. But the Cyclone can be picked up by the Phoenix, and the Stalkers can't take on these Marines. It's not an easy, like, instant trade, but it is something that can happen. Actually, the Phoenix, a little late to the party. Also, a nice refocus fire there for InZaNe to be on the Phoenix immediately to save the Cyclone. So, 2 powerful groups of units really came down to micro there, and InZaNe, fair's advantage, good micro, ends up holding. But Phoenixes will be coming through here to kill a couple of SCVs, and then if he doesn't get a missile turret, it can kill a lot, because SKillous is making, I guess, up towards to 5. We'll see if he goes any higher than that. He goes maybe into Colossus, too. This is going to bother me for the rest of the flipping game. No one's going to kill that. No one's going to even be around that. Yeah, I was saying Blazer has a strong presence these days. Yeah, these qualifiers have been good for a lot of their players. I mean, 2 of them are well known. Bly and someone else I'm forgetting. But then the other guys are not so much well known. Now we're getting to see them. I believe Skillous, this is his 2nd time, I want to say, in the lower bracket qualifying rounds. And I believe it's InZaNe's 1st time, but don't quote me on that. We do have a robotics bay on the way. While he stopped building Phoenix at 4, actually, he is still primarily depending on them to cover the Colossus's butt. In this case, it's forehead, it's gigantic forehead. Not that InZaNe would have this quick of Vikings. I mean, you'd have to sacrifice a lot on this economy to go for Vikings as quickly. Oh, especially when you pull the SCVs, look at that. Well, the Phoenix look at it, and they report back to headquarters, and what is Skillous' response here? I gotta imagine you cancel the 3rd Nexus. It's just a weird thing to do, though, because you don't actually have enough gateways to produce 400 zealots, 400 minerals of zealots, sorry. So I guess you don't. But what do you do? I would imagine adding a lot of shield batteries, which you don't have yet. And that's where you would put the 400 minerals. There you go. So I still think canceling the command center, the Nexus is the way to go, but all right, interference edge is very important here. Banshee adds some DPS, even though there's Phoenixes. Is there an observer? There's also not cloak. It's just adding DPS, pure and simple. SVs have already used their lives to bully back the Protoss, but man, do they bully back the Protoss all into a clump at that natural. The cannon not helping here. The Colossus is taken out, and InZaNe with the follow-up 2-base all-in is absolutely going to do it. Oh my god, Skillous. GG. Woo. I was a little scared, you know. That was ended up being a good cleanup from Skillous on that Marauder thing. But while his army wasn't the worst against the 2-base all-in, I think his reactions were a little slow, or he was way overconfident, don't know which one. And that he didn't recognize until it was too late how clumped up he was. I didn't even realize it until I was like, whoa, that entire army's in the mineral line. It took me like 10 seconds. So when he retreated to the mineral line, he was probably thinking, well, he was probably forced to. His shield batteries were probably blocking a lot of the AI from going up north. But even with that, and his decision to go back and just retreat was always going to put him in a difficult, choked up position. It just was the extra small choke that was his natural mineral line. Brutal. SCV pools are good against Colossus, by the way. They not good versus Storms. Not so good. And I think that was a good visual representation. If I got another game that had the Storms in the same scenario, I think we'd see the differences. But Colossus attack, not nearly as much splash as Storm. Not as strong either. And not as large in range, because there's not as much splash, right? You're talking about a circle versus a line. And them wasting, it's not like they have ammo, but still wasting 2 or 3 shots on SCVs means that they're not shooting the bio at all, which when it's storm, it's they are also hitting the bio most of the time. Just pointing it out because I feel like some people are like, SCV pulls, go for it. And you're like, it's pointless versus storm. Why would you even try? But that situation, that was a really great SCV pull on 2 bases. Really nice follow-up and skillous. I really don't know what he does like to perfect a defense there. I think it's always going to be close. But like I was saying, maybe shield batteries and buying time, I guess. Maybe he could have met the army kind of a little more forward before it sieged up. You know, that's also a potential there. But especially the way that SKillous was playing, you know, to the Colossus with only a certain number of Phoenix. I think that InZaNe's SCV pool was really, really good.
Hostile forces detected. Arming raid defenses.
Ah, thank you for the raid. Kompis Brobski. In the bottom left, going for that sneaky barracks positioning, it is the green Terran InZaNe. In top right, as the red Protoss, it is SKillous. Can I say how much I appreciate you updating the stream name out for each match? Well, when you're waiting like 10 minutes in between games, it does get easier. If this was a, you know, back-to-back series, it'd be a lot worse about it. Firefly Grave says, I don't know who's gonna win. One player has the skills to get the kills, while the other is insane in the membrane. Clever boy. Or girl, I don't know. Clever human being on the internet. So, most Protoss players, especially on blue shift, know when they see no barracks here, that doesn't mean that barracks is over here. They know to look around the Terran's base, and SKillous finds the barracks and should keep tabs on what that barracks is doing. InZaNe is going for double gas, so it is with the implication to go into a factory, but it might be a factory expand. Just with, you know, all these structures not where you necessarily expect it. I mean, the factory's even going at home, no problem there. If SKillous were to go for the drastic approach to dealing with a proxy, which is, you know, going for your own one base attack, a factory at home saves the Terran. So it's the safe way to play. And I did see one, yeah, I forgot, yeah, that was 2, so it is going to be a factory expand. So tricky, very tricky. You can certainly go into starports over here with the barracks being the add-on maker. You could go for proxy factory, but that would have been scouted and that would have been that great of an idea. You can go into 111 and then the command center, but you know, there's all these things that the Protoss have to keep in mind because they can't keep tabs on it really. They can try if it's down here, which is why they depth checks, but that's nothing revealed quite yet. And then otherwise, you're gonna be waiting a while for Lucid Phoenix, or an Observer, or an Oracle. In this case, there'll be an Observer. The Robo is a good catch-all against early plays, but the Stargate can be as well. Just basically don't go Twilight Council, and you should do well enough against early pressure. Thank you, BS Falcon BS. Maybe he has a... You used to be a Smash player? Do you think Falcon's BS? The Twitch Prime sub. Cloak is on the way, but now that InZaNe has some units to scare away the Scout, well, actually Adept's Shades are good. Never mind. So ideally, he doesn't let the Scout in, but Shades be Shades, and the Tech Lab is on the front line, so I guess this might have been expected. He might not mind having his Banshees revealed, because we all know what Banshees can do, even if they are detected. Even if they know they're on the way, even with shield batteries in each mineral line. You deal with one Banshee, suddenly there's 2, and you go, ah, no. So this might not be the worst thing to happen for InZaNe, but it does give a lot of information to Skillous that otherwise you don't want to. Not just so that they don't take damage. Obviously InZaNe wants to do damage to the Banshees, but so that they don't kill you because they think they have an opening. And unfortunately, InZaNe isn't thinking about the combative Protoss measures against what he's doing. He's thinking probably just like, okay, I'm gonna have to find some clever way to get damage done. If he was thinking about the arm moving across the map, and I thought he saw a War Prism pop out, so I'm surprised. I think a bunker would have been in order, because the bunker... Okay, well, observer does go down. That's nice. So, well, okay, hold on. The attack comes in, and if there was a bunker, this is different. Without a bunker, this actually ends up just being a lot of important units taken out. Luckily, the Cyclone lives. God, how did that live? And now we're just down to micro. 3 SCVs go down. The Banshee's gonna find 2 shield batteries even, so not gonna be anything there. Observer being pumped out. It was on the offensive to begin with, but anyways, I thought, and so did InZaNe, by the way, I thought that SKillous is gonna, you know, just show like a Zealot or something over here, and then actually drop everything or teleport everything into the main, which is why InZaNe only had half his army at the front lines. If there's a bunker, you don't have to worry about being split up like that. But, as it turns out, InZaNe holds without a bunker regardless, and also thinking that there would be a multi-pronged attack, so it all works out for him. And SKillous, I mean, still has the War Prism, was hoping for a bit more with that attack, especially because he didn't see a bunker. 2 Banshees now paired up, but there are 3 Stalkers and an Observer in surveillance mode, which he notices and decides not to do anything about. Second Observer over here, also in surveillance mode. There is no room for these Banshees to do damage, unless they start targeting, like, this gateway, or... God, I mean, what doesn't the surveillance mode Observer see? Yeah, okay. I don't know what they could attack. You'd have to get the Observer out of position to open up opportunities, and that just seems unlikely, especially because SKillous is going for a 3rd and even a 4th Observer. That's 5 in total with 1 dying earlier. Damn. There's the SCV pool, and it was a matter of time. I was wondering when that was going to happen. Good lock on the War Prism. If you had locked on the Stalker, just an easy lift and it's broken, but the War Prism can't break it unless he's out of range, which just barely did. One of those 4 Observers does go down, but SKillous still has plenty. He does not want to have a stupid game where he's winning and then doesn't have detection for Cloak. That always feels bad. He went directly into charge, which is going to be very helpful here. He doesn't have any splash, so that's where the SCVs come in. But I'm afraid InZaNe gonna mess up a little bit. His SCVs are on the back side of things. There we go. He realizes what's up. Realizes that SKillous is gonna try and attack him, so he sieges up the SCVs on the front lines to hold those Zealots away from the important units. And that was a decent couple of tank shots there. Bunkers are coming down, not just to fill eventually, but also to make sure those Zealots don't get the best wraparounds possible. There's an Observer. The tanks are target firing on top of those Stalkers very effectively. The other units were going okay, but the tanks on top of the Stalkers were going great. A bunker is still on the way, but the Raven has been expended. The Banshee's not being taken out too. The tanks are getting awfully lonely here as the last 2 Marines end up not quite going down actually. The Raven lives, the Banshee lives, the bunker actually gets up and running, and another Observer has been taken down here, so down to 1 Observer that's had to be pulled from the main base. Cloak has run out, but there should be another Banshee on the way. There she is. Not just the Cloak, the free damage, but just the damage in general as you take a Banshee down is pretty extreme. And what has SKillous lost? All of his damn Stalkers. So the Archons have got to get in there and got to get in range. Oh, this is actually really nice. SKillous finds the tanks on siege. Just at least 1 more tank shot on top of these units that should have happened before the tanks were touched. The Immortal is on top of the tanks as well, so instantly they go down. And InZaNe's push is not going to work. SKillous has held, even though it looks awfully testy at the last minute there. And that is going to be it. InZaNe, surprisingly, not just going to immediately tap out. This is basically game over. But he's going to try and continue through here. It's not going to work. There is certainly going to be a number 3, even with defensive tanks. Oh, defensive Banshee? No Observer? Nope, here comes the Observer. That's not going to be the secret to the comeback. And InZaNe is down 13 workers, which, hey, in TVP, maybe not that bad. Certainty is on the way, but he doesn't have the army quite yet to hold up to this. He's also down an upgrade here. Nowhere near the important upgrades he would need to play a macro game either. Stim, combat shields, all that. And that is going to be game. GG. SKillous ties it up 1-1. the ace match to determine it all. It's gonna be on automaton. The way you pursue your dreams is inspirational. Thank you. It's my Goldie reaction of Banshee's 5 observers. Was it too many? Technically, yes. You were talking about the perfect way to play Protoss, even in such a position like that. Yeah. It's too many. But for how everything played out and the fact that he still won, it was the perfect amount. There you go. All that matters is the end result. It's game number 3. It's the qualifying match of the losers bracket, so this is it. This is it for both of them. It's the last qualifier. There's no more chances to get into the tournament. I guess technically, if you could somehow become a dual citizen in like 3 hours, you could play the American server qualifier. But this is legitimately it for your chance to be in WCS Winter. Otherwise, you're waiting, what, 4 months before the next WCS? And that's me literally guessing that it's Dallas. That's totally guessed. I'm looking into it, guys. So it's kind of a big deal. In the bottom left, with the green Terran, it is InZaNe. In the top right, going for... Okay, that was just a Reaper wall off. It is the red Protoss, SKillous. On the minimap, it almost looked like a forward gateway. Nope, just blocking the Reaper. Still good positioning. Okay. And Zane, you'd think he goes from the 2-base tank push. You'd think, and you'd be right. That's almost for sure what he's gonna do. Of some variety. We are on, I believe, the longest map so far. I don't remember at all what the first map was, but I think it was Cerulean Fall? Question? No. Hold on. Was it on Port Alexander? I think I did it, guys. And then Blue Shift. So Automaton natural to natural is still kind of a ways to go. It doesn't really deter tank pushers. Port Alexander is also not that short, so... While yes, Blue Shift and Cerulean is like where we see those really fast 2-base pushes. The world is your tank push oyster, guys. Don't let your tank dreams be dreams. Do what you want. And if tanks don't work, then try to pull SCVs with bio, I don't know. Whatever you do, don't go late game versus Protoss. Kidding, actually. We have a lot of European Terrans going late game versus Protoss, but for the general advice from many different Terrans, it would be not to go late game versus Protoss. So, yeah. Good stuff. Reaper wants to get up to the high grounds, but you notice there's crates blocking the other section of the lip there. So the Reaper can't do that. Now, I got up there suspecting to be a stalker. Instead, it finds a sentry. And he's like, wait a second. Like, I can actually injure this sentry. Plus, it could have dived past it. That's what I'm looking for. Past. Directions. What even? Am I an Uber driver on the side? No. I don't have a car that's designed to Uber. It's 2 doors. It's actually totally, I mean... As a freelancer, getting other types of freelance jobs is totally legit. It's better than getting a part-time job where the schedule is set by someone else, so... It wouldn't surprise me that a lot of streamers are also Uber drivers. I can't do it. Yeah, I still don't think there's gonna be a lot of Uber drivers on the side of streaming. Generally, if you're a big enough streamer to even have a chance of going like full time, you're putting in literally ungodly hours in an attempt to do so. It's weird to find people who put in 6 hours and then 6 hours of Uber driving or however they want to split it up that actually get big. But, you know, there's got to be some streamers out there who have a decent load of streaming hours plus the ability to add a few hours of Uber. I don't know. There's so many things you could do on the side. It's just a question of, do you want to do something on the side, or do you want to do side things that influence your streaming career, right? You could learn how to paint and have a side gig as a painter, but you could also learn how to use After Effects and Premiere and whatnot to up your YouTube game, and then you could also network by watching other people's Twitch streams to up your hosting game, and yeah. Anyways, Hussein Phoenix comes in to get a good scout. It is going to see that, ooh, what a surprise, not tanks. In fact, a reactor is being added on that's factory, but I still suspect a 2-base all-in of some sort. It's just it happens too often not to. So SKillous is going to be keeping tabs on that, seeing if the SCV pool comes down at any point. He should have checked to see how many barracks there are. There are currently 3, but he's going to want to recheck that and check for 4. Sorry, 5 as time goes on. That was really weird micro. I'm not sure what happened there, but I know it was Miss Micro. I can't explain it, but I know it. So that is a couple of freebie stalkers and really a lot of freebie almost half-dead stalkers, which is going to be important because the push could be on its way right now. Simply waiting for maybe the combat shields +1. There we go. He's actually missing a second medevac. There she is. Okay. So now it's good to go. You have weak stalkers that are pretty much the buffer to your Colossus. So they're not very dependable to begin with against a high Marauder count, but then you make them 2 shots less away from death. There is 1 sentry, and there is a bit of a choke. So that's where I think SKillous is fine on 2 bases, but if he reaches towards a 3rd, which InZaNe scans and realizes, okay, I need to think about how I'm going to path this out here. Then he will die. Then SKillous would be dead if he tried to protect that. I think, anyways. Maybe barely holds, but I don't know if it was really worth it. So, caution first. Now taking a 3rd base with probably a finger on the trigger to cancel it on a moment's notice. Observer sees the army positioning. Really good 2 observer placements, actually, that InZaNe would be very happy to get rid of. InZaNe does not go for 2-base all-in. He goes for 3rd CC and then adds on 2 more barracks. Who'd have thunk it? As adding on a 2nd starport is he's going to have to deal with Colossus. Now, Blink is already done, so we have charge about halfway. And now we even have SKillous feeling confident enough to bully back that army since he added on more stalkers. He had another sentry. And a 2nd Colossus for sure will make him confident against what is still one of the original armies that InZaNe has thrown out here. A 3rd observer is currently scouting the army growing as is, so it can see if it's Vikings or Liberators or whatnot. Most Terrans you see going to the macro game are going for the Viking option. Scan reveals that it's not a 2-base Colossus all-in, which used to be a really popular thing, but not so much anymore. So sees 3rd Nexus as well as, you know, the symbol of oversaturated workers, which is long-distance mining. At this point, this army really is inferior. It can take on the Stalkers, though, so that's what he tries to do, clap back. But he cannot take on the 2 Colossus, and Marines looking extremely weak against that, too. Blink forward takes on the medevac. That's a nice little cleanup there. Dangerous cleanup for SKillous, because if InZaNe had another 2 medevacs flying to the left side, he would have had to use a recall on, like... Actually, he can't even use a recall. He doesn't have enough energy. But it worked out. He was maybe checking the natural the entire time to make sure that wasn't the case. And right now we only have 1 medevac full of Widow Mines going for probe kills, not a Nexus kill. SKillous' army just simply goes for the attack, and while it's not a 2-base all-in, it is still a very powerful amount of units. The gases have got to be taken here. The probes will die here. InZane's would lose his 3rd CC, and things are not looking pretty. Despite, like, really what was not much happening, Things are not looking pretty. If you give InZaNe an extra minutes past losing those 2 medevacs to the right side, he's probably fine. He probably defends his third base. You know, not easily, but he probably does. And the game does go on. But SKillous going for the attack when he did. It finds himself a freebie third base and even just pulls away after that. Only 5 probes die from the Widowmine drops, although they will continue. That's the good news here for InZaNe. InZaNe now needs to go for, well, what ended up being a 2-base all-in, I suppose. As I think the only option is to, in fact, pull your SCVs. Pull your SCVs before they grow their charge lot count, before they, God forbid, get the storm. And you might still be able to do well. You have a decent Viking count. The SCVs will buffer those first 2 shots while the Vikings kill the Colossus. And the Bio might just be able to take on whatever's left over. I think that's the only shot. And I think that's what InZaNe's thinking of, but the question is, when exactly does he pull? Sim forward, I guess he assumed there was a couple stalkers waiting for him. He built a missile turret to get the observer out of the way, and that would have been really important. But this observer sees the SEV pool. SKillous is probably like questioning if this was going to happen anyways, and this observer would have seen it too, but it would have been nice to keep that a question mark. Stalker's going to go forward to meet the Vikings. Instead, are going to meet a couple Marauders, so maybe that's why I did it. He does end up taking out a Viking, though. Every little bit counts. We have 3 Colossus that's going to be taken out by the Vikings, probably, but they'll also get a lot of damage in before they get taken out. Disruptors are being produced, and we also just have a very chunky ground army, non-Colossus part of the army. SCVs weren't exactly on the front lines, so not necessarily the ideal. Vikings take out the Colossus instantly, but the charge lots have broken through the SCV line. The Vikings get destroyed by the Archons, and this is not going to work out. And InZaNe, unfortunately, is a little short, so congrats. Good manners there.